In the first 3 years, 1,000 trillion connections are made. You see the brain expand, like physically in our baby's brain. They're not these lovely little devices we've got sitting around that make our kids laugh and stuff. They are literally changing brains. There's some good stuff about devices, but there's definitely some negative. We have to feel in our bodies tolerable stress, tolerable anxiety, tolerable fear.
Kia ora, welcome to Parents We've Met. Thank you for clicking on our podcast and coming and hanging out with us for a little bit of your day. Now today you are in for a bit of a treat because we have got an expert in the hot seat. She has done all the study, understanding the brain, the upgrades, functions and the normal stages kids go through. And she has the gift of explaining it to us tired parents, caregivers in a way that we go, and it makes sense. It's normal. So welcome, Kathryn Berkett. Is that pretty much what you do? You study it all and then you break it down so that we can digest it?
That sounds a pretty good summary. Yeah, that's my life.
Oh, we appreciate it. I feel like after this podcast, a lot of people are going to walk away and they're going to be like, this is okay.
Yeah.
This is normal.
And I get it. I understand my child a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah. Cool. And Kathryn, welcome. And you have just got off a plane from Great Barrier.
I have.
So well done for getting here. What we're going to hear today is going to be good for anybody who's got from a baby to a teenager. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just about us. And also, by the way, for the parents, your own stress response systems and our own, body health and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, everyone.
Cool. Yeah. So actually, I've got to ask, what were you doing over in Great Barrier?
I was working with the educators, so we did a full day training and then did a community session, which I think there was the entire island there. We were pretty lucky, but I spent a couple of days just walking and going to the beaches as well, which is, I am so lucky with my job.
Lovely, lovely. Well, I thought to kick things off today, to get a bit warmed up, give the people a bit of a teaser of what's to come, we'd do a bit of a quick fire. So I've got a few questions here for you. At what age do you think the brain changes the most?
We do know that it's from birth. We say to 3 years, but now they're really looking at 2 months, 3 months as some astronomical beginning. But in the first 3 years, you've got 1,000 trillion connections are made. You see the brain expand, like physically in our baby's brain, the fontanelle has to expand. So that's the most, but the second, fantastically, is in the adolescence, early adolescence. So those are the two major brain changes times. Yeah.
What's a common myth about teenage brains you'd love to bust?
That they shut down, that they're not online. It is, like I said, the second most amazing time. And there's so much going on in their brain, more energy used, more changes being made. So, yeah, really know that it's this massive upgrade. Stay in there, keep in there, put lots of good info in.
If parents could do just one thing daily to support healthy brain development, what would it be?
I would say the most important thing is for parents to make sure they are feeling good and safe, because you've got to make good decisions about what you do. And really, our kids are continuously changing and challenging. So if you are in a good space, so making sure you're taking your own time out, getting someone to look after the kids and having some, if you've got a partner or by yourself or meeting up with friends and all of that, going for walks, time out, that's really important.
How does stress, both for our kids and ourselves, affect the brain?
So technically, if we get into too high a stress, we can really change the chemicals in our body. And so we send different chemicals through our brain and it can start rewiring it. Our body can be really impacted if we're in stress for a long time. It's mainly to do with cortisol. But really, if we're in stress, we're not in rest and digest. So that's sort of like a seesaw. The more stress, less rest and digest. So your digestion, your skin, your hair, all of that sort of stuff. But your brain can physically get impacted if we've got really high stress. We're not talking about normal stress, really high stress.
What's one thing you wish we knew about kids' brains and devices?
That they can physically change the brain. And if you physically change the brain at an early enough age, that will have ongoing repercussions. And to try and change it back later is going to be significantly difficult. They're not these lovely little devices we've got sitting around that make our kids laugh and stuff, they are literally changing brains. There's some good stuff about devices, but there's definitely some negative about devices, and they physically create connections that inform the next thought or behaviour. So, yeah.
Practicing gratefulness, what effect does it have on the brain? Does it have an effect?
It does. It's sort of that seesaw I said about cortisol or stress and rest and digest. If you're grateful and you're feeling happy and calm because you're looking at the positive things, do you see that's going to bring your body back down to calm, and it's going to activate that rest and digest, and stop that negative chemical input in the brain. So yeah, it is very important.
Do you think as parents we just need to get back to basics and let kids be kids more?
We do and we don't. I love the fact that we have this new generation of kids who are out there challenging, pushing buttons. I don't want to go back. I do want kids to be allowed to be a bit more free range and free roam. But I think if we look back, we actually had a lot of, certainly from my experience and a lot of my friends at my age, being told to pull yourself in, don't be yourself, like to sort of do that. I look at my kids and I have huge jealousy at how intentional they are, how aware they are. So when you say back to being kids, no, I don't want to go back. I want to keep going forward and help our kids be good, resilient kids in this new world where we're letting them be themselves. So yeah, yes and no.
Yeah.
Kathryn, we all want our kids to be resilient, and we like how you put it, that children need a tolerable amount of distress. Can you explain what that looks like?
Yeah, the analogy I use, which I think makes a lot of sense and helps, and you can actually physically do it with your kids, is talking about building an arm muscle. So if you want to build your arm muscle, you don't lift a tiny little weight. You also don't get a parent to lift the weight for you, or you don't avoid the gym completely because you're not very fit, right? So, but you also, if you went to the gym and got your weight, you don't want to pick up a big weight just because someone of a similar age as you picked it up. What we've got to do is we've got to establish, if I want to healthily build my arm muscle, what weight, when I pick it up, hurts. So there's stress, but it's tolerable. And if we went to our kids, hey, pick up the weight that's going to build your muscle, they would pick up a weight that hurts, but tolerably. And every kid would pick up, not every, but we'd have a big diversity of weight, right? So that's tolerable. We have to feel in our bodies tolerable stress, tolerable anxiety, tolerable fear, we've got to lose, we've got to have a little bit, and I'm quite clear on the word teasing and bullying are very different. Bullying is ongoing, targeted, but we need teasing. We need going out and playing. That's what that kids will be kids sort of idea. Having a bit of radu between each other and all those sorts of things, because that's how we learn. And if we don't let those experiences happen, we won't become stronger and build that muscle.
That's good. So when do we start creating these moments of tolerable stress for our little ones? And how do we do that?
We started moments of tolerable stress from the day of birth.
Being born.
No, that was probably intolerable stress, but that's all right. We don't want to go, but amazing chemicals protect us from that when we're born. But no, when we get them home, we play a game called Boo.
Yeah.
We play peekaboo, and we put our baby into stress by hiding. And they look up and they go, oh, you've gone. And their body goes into a physical activation of the fight-flight response. And then we reappear. Boo. And they go, oh, she's back. Oh, she's gone. Oh, no, she's back. Oh, no, she's gone. And they physically go in and back down. But it's tolerable. And when the brain goes into tolerable and back down, it gives you a dopamine kick, which is our reward chemical. And so you see baby go, huh. And then we play round and round the garden. We make them anxious about this little piggy. And then we go on bear hunts, and then we play hide and seek. And can you see? It's right from the beginning. And all these games we play, they are we're scaring our kids. We're making them anxious with the little piggy. We're frustrating them with jigsaws.
Yeah.
But it's fun because the brain knows that it's the only way we're going to get better at something is to push into that tolerable zone. And it's not a new thing, zone of proximal development, Vygotsky's theory years ago. It's the Goldilocks, right? Those sorts of zones. But we've got to go there. Otherwise, we'll never get better.
I heard you actually talk about hide and seek. And this was really interesting because you were saying, they're hiding, they might be in a closet, it's that anticipation. And you were saying, when it's not tolerable, because quite often it's when your kids go, I'm in the cupboard. And I've got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I remember that, and I used to think, why'd you call out? And now it makes so much more sense that it was just a little bit too long to be apart, or that to sit with that intolerable stress.
Yeah, they're signaling to you that they know, they feel it, right? And also, if you get there too early and you open the cupboard and they haven't got into that tolerable space, they'll tell you to go away.
Do it again.
You haven't found me. Well, I sort of have. No, you haven't. And you've got to go away because it's no fun. So they are so good at reading their bodies, so good. But unfortunately, over time, we can start denying them that. Oh, no, you're okay. You're not scared. This is it. You should be that. Your friends stay in the cupboard for longer. I know we don't say that, hide and seek, but you see? And we don't allow them to feel that in their bodies. Do you get it?
Yeah.
And so I have to relearn it now to understand, really to feel my body, because we get to the point where we're told not to feel ourselves and no, you're not scared. No, you're not worried. That's not sad. It's like, yeah, I am.
Yeah. Why do parents find it hard to let their children experience tolerable distress, do you think?
Because in our brains, especially as a parent, but anyone you're really connected to, if we scan your brain and then pretend to slam one of your kids' fingers in the car, your brain will light up in exactly the same place as they light up. Almost to the same if you're really connected, but very, very close. So you've literally felt their stress, do you see? So when they get sad, when they come home and they've been teased, or when this has happened, we are feeling it. So not only now are we going into stress on their behalf, it's on our behalf, and we can go right up. So it's a physical, actual activation in our brain that's the same as theirs, which is why you can go and pick up your niece or take your grandkids, not grandkids because they're still that connected to you, but as a teacher or as a coach, you can push those kids way further than your own, because you're literally activating the brain the same or pretty close to.
Okay, you talk about these moments of tolerable stress, but I can imagine with devices now, our kids have the potential to be sitting in long stints of stress.
And this is why when we really start to understand this stuff, it does get quite scary. And by the way, to everyone listening, I'm a parent of 2. My kids have too much screen time. I struggle with how to do it. Okay, so do as I say, not as I do. But I am significantly more strong about it when they were younger because of this. So absolutely, when you think about that going into stress, the muscle building was going from tolerable stress down to calm. Do you see? That was the muscle building. Exactly as you said, when we go onto those devices, they absolutely work out how to hold you there. Because if you come back down to calm, you might actually engage your brain and go, oh, I want to go outside and play. So they hold you there. So as soon as you've won the game, the next one comes, and this happens, and then that happens, and then the next reel, and then this, and then that. Do you see what I mean? And the little sound comes on and keeps you there. And you are literally marathon running, staying in even a slight state of that activated stress. And when we talk about a slight activation stage, so it's sort of that middle, I sort of say the orangey brain activation, but emotional, that feels like anxiety. Could be frustration, could be nervousness. We use lots of different words there. But then when our kids feel anxious, do you see how we've literally trained them to hold that for longer now, not to get back out of it? And the more you practice something, the more you practice an exercise and engage a muscle in a series of actions, the easier it is to happen. So, and by the way, I always need to say, I'm saying anxiety in the biological sense. I'm not including clinical anxiety, which is imbalances of neurotransmitters and stuff. There is a difference. I'm talking about normal biological anxiety. But we can. It's pretty scary when you start thinking about it.
Wow. How do you see gaming affecting kids' brains? Good or bad?
Really, really bad. And by the way, alcohol's bad. I drink a bit of alcohol, right? So no judgment there. But if you're letting your kids be on these devices and playing games, we talk about they're better at hand-eye coordination and they're better at, I'm sure they could probably shoot someone faster than I could because they've been on the games. It's not really the skills I want my kids to be learning. Gaming is all about status, getting to the next one. Very, very rarely is there any empathy needs to be involved. I mean, people talk about teamwork, but it's not really empathy, if we're quite sure. And then all of that addiction to getting up, that dopamine chasing, it's just this really quite toxic environment. If you play games outside, you almost always, even if you play rugby, you push someone over, you've got to help them back up again. There's losing, there's winning. Even if you lose on a game, you win. Usually they try and give you another chance or another to keep you there. Otherwise, you're not going to keep playing. So when you think about the skills that they are actually engaging with on gaming, I get quite scared. Again, a little bit of time gaming and then out playing real games and learning there, I'm totally fine. But if they're doing that quite a bit, even if they're going to be a professional gamer when they grow up, they actually need to get outside and learn all those other things to actually be a really good gamer.
So what do you think the balance looks like then? Because I think a lot of parents are like, my husband, he remembers, the summer of whatever it was.
69.
I actually was trying to figure out 85. But he remembers spending the whole summer like clocking a game, and he looks back quite fondly on it. But I think games are very different to what he was playing. But I look at my boy who is 8, and he loves gaming, and we'll do an hour on a Tuesday, an hour on a Thursday, and he can do an hour on the weekend. But it's still, I still watch his moods when he comes off it. And it takes a little while to regulate again. And you do have to have a bit of a plan. If you're going on the trampoline or you're going running, he needs something physical because his mood and everything after it, it's not always fun.
Well, you're literally telling your brain there's danger. And so you're going into the stress response. You're activating all of that. You're shutting down your empathy. You're shutting down your time management. You're shutting down all of that sort of stuff, which, again, is fine if it's short amounts of time. But as you've just explained, it's short bursts, and you know that when he comes off, he hasn't been in it's good for their brains, they relax and they talk with their friends. No, it's actually a negative space, which is fine. We'll go out on the trampoline, we'll readjust, we'll do that. Now, we've all did bad stuff when we're kids and a little bit of it. So it is balance, but I want parents to understand that it's not healthy time, in most cases, being on devices. So know that it's not healthy and balance it with the healthy. It's great.
Yeah.
If we see it like that.
Yeah. And you talked about like violence, because a lot of games, there's fun, cute, there's a variety, but there are a lot that are a bit more violence. And you talk about how there's not that empathy. Being involved in games where there's violence, how does that affect the brain? Because, reality and this fiction sort of...
The more you see, feel something, the more your brain habituates to it. That's what it does. And it would probably be a little bit like this anyway in real life, but I was watching my son playing a skateboard game the other day, and he was going, "Mum, watch it," because he wants to show me, "No, watch this," and he comes flying off the side of a building, and he absolutely canes out, and this person's like laying there, and I'm like, "Oh," and he's just playing it, and he goes, "Mum, it's just a game," and he thinks it's funny now. He's like, if I walk in, he goes, don't look, Mum," and it's like, and I actually activate in my body a really visceral, that person's just, and he's like, and there's nothing. Now, again, probably lots of reasons, even if we both started from afresh, he'd be less activated than me. But you can see with that playing and playing and playing. So if we went out and we saw someone fall over, can you see that his reaction is going to be significantly different to mine? He might still help the person, but it's not going to be as visceral and activated as mine. And if you have done something violent towards someone again and again and again, what also worries me about online stuff like that is not with his skateboarding, but if you're shooting someone, hurting someone, you're not getting any feedback that's negative. You're only getting positive. You've won this, you've got more points. Now, in real life, if you're violent to someone, even if you won the fight or whatever, you're still going to end up getting punched or hurt, or there's going to be some feedback, right? Or you're even going to go, "Oh, I hurt that person." On gaming, you don't get any negative feedback. And we don't let our kids have a bit of raru, a bit of fisticuffs, and I'm saying when everything's equal and it's not going to be too bad, We don't let them do that, and then we let them do it online, and then they hit adolescence when their brain is just so, some kids right into status, right into how tough am I, how strong am I, and we can get some really scary outcomes because we haven't let them learn the natural consequence of being violent or verbally abusive to someone. We've got to learn that stuff at a tolerable level. So, that violence to someone online can desensitize us to quite an extent.
Dayna's mentioned to me, Kathryn, that you've been studying proprioception and interoception. Did I say that right?
Do you know, that's why I gave you that question.
Yeah,
Do you like that?
did. Really have to look at those words. And you found some interesting ways this is affecting our kids. Kids need time and space. They need to spin and roll around, feel the grass under their feet.
Absolutely. And it's pretty cool stuff to understand because and we're talking about going back to kids being kids, but really we're missing a lot of things that we wouldn't imagine are having this effect. So one of the things, proprioception is where we exist in time and space. I'm sitting on the chair and I'm here and that. Interoception is the sensations coming from my body. So more feelings, if you wanted to call it. I call it sensations, so it sort of covers everything. But what we do when we're really young and we're starting to walk is we're hugely in tune with our body. And so making sure our babies, when they're learning to walk, don't have shoes on and they get their feet in the grass, in the water, in the mud, feeling that 40,000 nerve endings on the bottom of our feet, sending all this up through our body into our brain, and our brain processing them, all those sensations coming up, especially in the terrific twos. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm excited, I'm all of that sort of stuff. All of that. You watch our kids when they're little with their shoes off, laying on the ground, touching nature, being in that space. That's all because they're learning to read all these sensations. And also I work in trauma, work with a lot of kids who have experienced a lot of overactivation of their stress, and also neurodiverse kids. You watch how many of them want to get their shoes off, lay down, touch things, have sensations on their skin. It's so important to be doing all of this so that our brain gets lots of practice at reading those things coming up. We change that into it, is it worth it? Is it scary? Is it good? Is it bad? Do you see? And if we're doing that all the time, then when we actually get scared or we get hungry, we can tell the difference. I need to go to the toilet. Oh, off to the toilet. Oh, no, I'm nervous. That's okay. That's not needing to go to the bathroom. Do you see what I mean? And so we learn to feel that, but we can only do it if we have all of that experience. Another reason devices, especially small devices, are really bad because they hold our kids from movement. Watching Moana or The Lion King on a big screen, they're probably going to run around, jump around. On here, they're probably going to sit still. So all of that movement and sensory, they'll go run to their bedroom and grab something to, put on them if they're watching a movie on a big screen. So that's an easy, and I say that respectfully, easy thing for parents to make sure our young kids and all our kids are doing is making sure they're getting sensations through their body and learning to interpret them.
So because we're not doing it enough, is sort of what you're saying, of like getting the shoes off, running out. I suppose even smaller apartment living, things like that can influence it. We feel like we went lockdowns and people are funny with germs and heaps have changed recently. Are you seeing with things like potty training, things where you're having to be in tune to that there's a difference now at the moment?
Absolutely. You ask any school teacher, firstly, especially in the first year of school, if they've got an increased number of kids who find it difficult to understand when they need to go to the bathroom. Now, there's other reasons for it, but one of the reasons is that lack of movement and stuff like that. And if you can't tell that you need to go to the bathroom, then how can you read your body and know that you're starting to get angry or starting to get nervous? And we say to kids, now, when you get angry, walk away. When you get sad, come and talk to me. When you get, but what if they're not even able to feel that? They can't feel that they need to go to the bathroom. Can they feel those more subtle emotions? So, there is definitely an increase. One of the reasons being screens. One of the other reasons is those smaller homes, but also smaller whānau units. We used to sort of farm out our kids a lot more. And even over on the island, it was quite cool. I got invited to one of the principal's places, and there would have been 4 or 5 kids. And I was sort of, just sort of half aware of it. But for hours, I probably would have seen them about 3 times. They were just off, that sort of thing. Way different. Don't think I'd experience that if I was at a, party in Wellington.
Yeah, off exploring. Wonderful brains, they're upgrading changes. You said something around kids lying is quite normal around this age of 7 and 9, and I've got a child, around that age, so my ears pricked up. Tell me more about that. This is normal? It's all part of the process?
So when we go through a developmental stage, could be sensitive periods, whatever, but basically it means a part of the brain is starting to want to upgrade. So there's going to be a lot more concentration. When our kids start walking, right, all they can do is walk. You can't pick them up. When they start to write their name, you get it on every surface in the house and all that sort of stuff. That's a developmental period. Well, there's one between 7 and 9. Now, again, if you see this at outside ages, that's okay. But between 7 and 9, we have this upgrade of the brain that can hold a story, beginning, middle, and end. Before this upgrade, they sort of might tell a story, and I went here and then I was over there, and you're like this. Okay, yep, fine. And then they suddenly are able to weave that all together. So you'll notice at school, if you talk to their teacher, if you are a little bit worried about this, ask what their storytelling is getting like. And I can pretty much guarantee that they'll be like, yeah, they've written this really quite amazing story. But what the brain has to do when it's going through an upgrade is practice. So they might come home and practice by telling you a whopper story. And I still remember my son coming home. He used to do the speech on behalf of the visitors at the pōwhiri. The school had a pōwhiri every term. And I was really proud of him. I used to go down and watch him. My skinny little white fella out there speaking his te reo Māori and doing this. And I was so proud. And then one term I couldn't see him. So he came home, he goes, Mum, guess what? I did it on behalf of the school. And I was like, no way. And he goes, yeah. And he went through everything and he told me what he did and how he did it. And I was just like so proud and it was fantastic. And he went to bed. Next morning, I swear, the minute he woke up, he was straight out going, Mum, it was all a lie. And which is fine because he realised I was going to go to school and say something to someone and say that. But do you see what he was doing? He was practicing this new skill. And so I understood it. It's not like I'm going to tell him off. But what I got good at doing with my kids at those stages is as they started, I was like, is this a true story? Or is it a made-up story? And they'd go, lovely. Made up. I was like, that's cool. Keep telling. I want them to keep telling. I want them to do it, but I want them to differentiate between that truth and that fib.
Yeah.
But it's a practice. It's very normal. Now, that would only be happening for a good 6-8 months. If it's happening longer, we want to be talking about that sort of.
It's more than an upgrade, people.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll give some relief to lots of parents, I think.
But what else? So that's with lying. What about, because there's going to be different stages and things people are going through, like arguing or pushing boundaries. I mean, are those also stages of just trying to figure out as you get older and more autonomy with arguing or sort of questioning?
Yeah, one I can think of, there's heaps in the adolescent stage, obviously, but one I can think of is really interesting. A lot of stages, when you look at developmental stages, it's at 6, if you look at international research. But what that is because 6 was when we started school. And if we look at our kids around about 4.5, just after that, you see their behaviour becoming really, I'm the boss and everything. But you think about our little 4-ish-year-olds, everyone they meet, they go, oh, are you going to start school soon? And they go, yes. And they go, oh, you're a big kid, eh? You're going to be... And all of a sudden they realise that I'm the boss, I'm bigger. And so all of their behaviour changes, right? And their behaviour starts to say, well, I can tell you what to do because I'm actually the boss now. I'm going to school. I'm a big kid, So that's not even a brain change. That's often a verbal thing we do with our kids. So it's really fascinating. Mason coming into the kitchen, I remember he used to spin, vestibular updating, like all those sorts of things. What I want parents to do is if they notice a new trend and it's healthy enough, try and encourage it. In the adolescent brain, they're doing upgrades and perspective taking. So they're going to start challenging you on perspective. They're going to come up with the craziest, devil's advocate thing and something. And you're like, whoa, just a minute. I think you're being argumentative. No, They're learning how to take perspective. They're learning how to shift from one view to another. So those sorts of things go, okay, I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to sit with it and allow it to happen. So there's lots of upgrades through our life. So many.
This actually makes me think of you, Jenny, because you're always saying to me about being curious, So if something's happening that I'm like, this is what's going on here, actually just pausing and being curious. And I suppose kind of having a bit more grace for our kids.
Yeah, we can so easily panic. And I think in coaching, often we think, well, my child is destined to be a troublemaker. And actually, we've just got to pull back and think, hang on a minute. There's stuff going on in their brain. And this is a stage where they're exploring. So we have to settle ourselves. There is a question that comes up in coaching, which is often around empathy. And sometimes the parents really worry that their child is showing a lack of empathy. And we do the pause over it, and maybe it's because they've seen their child not respond empathetically to a child who's fallen over or a friend who's fallen over. And we can address that. Maybe they were embarrassed or something like that. But Kathryn, from your scientific viewpoint, what is it about a lack of empathy and how is that created?
Yeah, and again, our brains are so diverse, but in sort of nutshelling it, I talk about empathy having 3 layers. And the first layer is built in the first sort of 12, 18 months of Bubby. And Bubby just watches everybody's face. And I say they take a photo of all these different faces, smiling, that different shaped faces, different coloured faces. Now think about the experience baby needs out of the park, at the supermarket at that stage. Then around about the terrific 2s, when we get like sort of highly emotional, that's a big time for them to put that photo with an emotion. So when we tickle our babies, I know we do it from younger, but this is when they really learn it. We tickle our babies, we tickle them and we go, we do this exaggerated smile, and then we go the angry bear, and we say, oh, scary, and we really overemphasize. You think about all of that time with all the reading books and all of that. They're saying, oh, that face goes with that emotion. That face goes with that emotion. Now, if mostly that lines up, then they put those together in the filing cabinet, boom, boom. And then the third bit of empathy is around about 3.5, 4-ish, where they do theory of mind and they learn to feel that somebody else could be different to them. And we watch them playing with toys and they get like the dolls and they go, I'm so happy today, Barbie. And Barbie goes, oh, well, I'm feeling a bit sad, actually. And you watch them, they're quite diverse feelings and emotions in the same place. And Superman, I'm so strong, and I'm quite scared, could you save me? And you watch them play and they're learning that 2 people could feel quite differently in the same place. You be angry and I'll be that, so you be that, And when we put those 3 together, face aligned with emotion, being able to feel it from somebody else's perspective, you've got empathy. But when we think about those 3 stages, what if you're not seeing faces? What if you're not experiencing emotions? And then what if you don't get the chance to play? So dressing up is theory of mind, becoming someone else, all of those experiences. So there's so many things that could hinder that. The area I work in, kids who have got high trauma, don't want to move, don't want to make too much noise. There's those sorts of things. But actually what's increasingly scary is the fact that devices can impact that. Devices can really stop it. Our kids in the supermarket, in the playground, in the car driving, it is the most amazing accumulation of information. And their brains, by the way, are looking at everything. We don't notice half of what they notice. It's just pulling everything in. Well, if they're in the supermarket on their device, they're missing all of those. So if you do think maybe your child might be struggling with empathy, well, then go through those stages. Mm-hmm. And those are the things. Don't keep asking them how they feel. Go back to the original facial expressions, emotions. If you're talking in a book, going, what is this going to make them feel? How did you feel? How do you think your friend felt when that happened? And really exploring all of that space.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you're going and doing talks with parents and different community groups. What is your message that you give them when it comes to, screens and how to do this well and navigate it? When should they start or hold off?
Yeah, which is really difficult. And by the way, I've been a single parent and I loved my TV. So big screens, I'm being quite arbitrary in saying small screens and big screens. Obviously, it's not this absolute line in the sand, but big screens allow movement and interaction. You're usually playing a longer movie on a big screen, so they have to hold the theme, they have to sit with the characters, sort of like you were saying with all those other things on movies. Small screens stop movement, allow fast-paced things, gaming, social media, that. I would like to see no devices, no small devices for children under the age of 7 years, and no small devices in the hands of adults who are around children under the age of 7 years. And then in those, when they're about 7, 8, 9, and they can start to understand it, we really start teaching them about the impacts of this, what they can do. As they get older, triangulation of data, where are your sources, all of that sort of stuff. And it's been shown in a number of overseas countries to really make a difference. I can't remember one of the Finland or that sort of stuff. They taught that, and during COVID, they looked at the conspiracy theory sort of traffic online, and there was significantly less in the country that specifically taught the kids how to look for your sources, understand them. Do you see what I mean? And now that with our world coming into the future, that's important, but trying to get that before they have access to it. So if I had my dream, that would be my dream.
And
Love
you
your
say,
dream.
we're for it. You say about the parents with devices in their hands, is that because of what we're modelling to our children, or?
Partly, absolutely, which is really important, but face to face.
Yeah.
We're not showing them emotion. And also, when you think about it, how much do you laugh at your screen? How much do you spend time? As soon as that message comes, but you stop talking to your kid and you talk to that, you're giving them this massive that you are not important. My screen is more important. These screens bring us more joy, more sadness, more information than you do. And so our kids start learning that this is our conduit for happiness and our conduit for life, really. So there is the modelling, but there's also the lack of face-to-face. Even when we read books on devices compared to reading physical books, the brain, they did research on how the brain develops significantly more with a physical book. All of these things that we are letting go because we've got devices are changes in the brain that we're missing opportunities. So it's way more than just the modelling, but the modelling is important. But
I think so often we talk about what our kids are doing, and we do need to look at ourselves. And I think too, there'll be parents that are watching, and when it's not about, trying to make you feel bad, or, because I've talked about my daughter coming up to me and going, "Mum, look at my eyes," and pulled me down because I was trying to reply to someone at work or something, And so those moments do make you go, okay, I need to stop and do a bit of a rethink of how I'm using this. Now, behind you, Jenny's book has been taken off the pedestal. KFC is not there because what's going on in there? Your book is sitting there. It's not even out yet.
No.
Tell us about, what is this book about and when is it coming out?
Very excited. You know, Jenny, how much it is to write a book. I talk quite easily. Writing is a struggle. So I've been very proud that it's come out. It's about the adolescent brain. It's not fully scientific. It's quite easy to read, but it does go through the physical changes, dopamine sensitivity, and the ability to read facial expressions. That's why they think you're always angry. The perspective taking stuff, all of those sort of hormonal changes on the brain. So really, I want parents to understand that there is so much going on for our young people. And we do need to give them a lot of, I loved your word before, grace and space and understanding, be curious, as you're saying, Jenny, all of that sort of stuff, because we sort of, you mentioned it before, their behavior changes. I'm going to have to change that now, otherwise they're going to become an adult who is like this. No, actually, it's a massive physical change in the brain. And it's such an upgrade that we need to keep in there, understand what's happening so we can give it the best nurturing. So it comes out the other end as this adult in this beautiful state.
So 27th of November is when it's out?
Yes, in the bookstores.
Wonderful. And I believe we've got a couple of copies. So if you keep an eye on our socials on Instagram, Callie, who runs that, who does an amazing job, will be doing a bit of a giveaway there. Yeah. So cannot wait. If people want to find out more about your work, where should they go?
My website's the easiest, so Engage Training, so ENGAGE, engagetraining.co.nz. I've got lots of sort of free stuff on there. You can look up stuff about, neuroscience and all that, and then there's some paid products. But yeah, that's where you can send me a message through there as well.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you so much for your
thank
time.
you.
I feel like there's so much I have to go and think about, digest, but it's so good. And I think too, it's just so encouraging to go, oh, this is normal. Some of these things, I think we over-crucialize them, and actually it's just something we're going through. We're not stuck here. So thank you so much. This podcast is brought to you by Parenting Play. So if you want to find out more about our work, like parent coaching, which Jenny does, and Sheridan and Kristen, or any of our courses, anything, go and have a look. parentingplace.nz is where you find us.